It is 6:43 now. I'm Michael Cohen, and this is 1320 WILS. So let's talk some more about Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl and what the situation with him is and what he's likely to face as a repercussion to some of the claims his troop members are saying about him. We're now joined by Brian Bouffard. He's a former Navy lieutenant commander and a JAG officer, and he currently defends military members. Find him online at jagdefender.com. Brian, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So how long were you in the Navy then?
Well, I was on active duty for 5 years. I was a Navy officer, but I served all my time with the Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton, so I kind of got the best of both worlds.
Gotcha. Were you in a war zone at any time? Or?
No, never been deployed. I am not a combat veteran. I'm just a lawyer.
And what would you say is especially unique about the situations you find as a military lawyer as compared to what happens in the civilian world?
It's a different system. You know, when you get to trial, it's very, very similar, but a lot of the stuff that is necessary to get to trial is very, very different. We don't have hung juries. Every verdict is the result of a non-unanimous vote, or it need not be unanimous. Mm-hmm. It's a very good system. It does normally a pretty good job of getting to the truth. Very good.
Do you think it's better than our civilian system?
In a way, it is. And in some ways, it's not. And you know, I could probably talk for hours just about the differences between the systems and which is better. But
well, give me the one thing that you find that is very efficient in the military system that doesn't work for us on the other side.
Well, we tend to have a very good quality of juror. We call them court members. That's the military term for jurors. And we're drawing from a pool of military members, so pretty much everybody is college educated, everybody is employed. They may be kind of, law and order and maybe inclined to convict on one hand, but on the other hand, they're also used to following orders. So when they are ordered by the judge, find somebody not guilty, if they have a reasonable doubt, they will follow that order. So it tends to be a pretty fair system when it's treated properly and not monkeyed with.
But we can't really do anything about our jurors, can we?
No, that's just our system. We're judged by a jury of our peers in the civilian system. In the military, you're judged by people who are senior to you.
So you're saying if you were involved in a case where you were on trial yourself, you'd rather be tried in a military court than a civilian court?
Honestly, yes. I really would.
Well,
I really would.
That says a lot. I'm talking to Brian Bouffard, former Navy lieutenant commander and JAG officer. So do you currently deal with military cases now?
I do, almost every day. I have a civilian criminal defense practice in Fort Worth, Texas, but I also travel worldwide handling cases in courts-martial. In fact, I just got back from South Korea. I was out there for 2 weeks on a sexual assault trial at Kunsan Air Base for a young airman who I believe was wrongfully accused, and fortunately our jury agreed with me.
Okay. A jury of fellow soldiers that are posted out there?
Yes. We had 3 officers and 3 senior enlisted personnel. Although
when you've got a jury like that, is it mostly men typically then in the jury?
This particular jury happened to end up all men, but we always have. I think females are just as well represented in court-martial panels as they are in the overall population. What
is Sergeant Bergdahl in for? Do you see him having a court case in front of him?
I hope that he does, and I say that not because I know for sure that he's guilty, because I don't know that, and I don't think really anybody knows that at this point. What they're doing now, undoubtedly, is they're debriefing him, and at some point they're going to hopefully make the decision whether or not they feel they have sufficient evidence to take him to court. And as far as I'm concerned, my view of what I think that I'm seeing here is that he has very possibly committed up to 3 offenses under the UCMJ. And unfortunately for him, each of these 3 offenses, if committed in time of war, could carry a possible death penalty. We're talking a lot and hearing a lot in the media about desertion. It does seem that he may have committed that offense.
Right, but is that evidence really going to be there, or is it going to be a matter of him admitting to something like that?
It'll be interesting to see what he says about himself. What we're hearing out of the White House and from DOD and really even from members of Congress does not impress me so much as what we're hearing from people who were there with him. People on the ground, his roommates, the people there at the base, and they are really, based on what I've seen, they are overwhelmingly giving indications that he laid down his weapon and he walked off that base and may have even intentionally attempted to walk to or join the Taliban.
Okay, now as a result, there was a POW now for 5 years or so. Does that change the decision or affect the decision to maybe go prosecute him, even if there's a case there?
They can make whatever decision they want as far as whether they're sending him to trial. There's nothing about the fact that he was a POW that affects whether or not what he did was criminal or not. I do think that if he did go to trial, if he were convicted, I think that a military jury would and definitely should consider that when they decide what his sentence should be. But the issue of whether or not he committed a crime really has nothing to do with the fact that he was a POW.
Now, you said there were 3 ways that he clearly violated the law. What would you say is the most obvious one?
Well, I think the most obvious one, and again, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. It's going to have to be the result of an investigation. But based on what we're hearing, it does seem to me, at least in my opinion, that he did leave, and that when he left, he had the intent to remain away from his unit permanently. In other words, I don't think he had the intent to leave for a little while and then come back.
Now, let me ask you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. No, go ahead.
I want to get your thoughts. If he were to call you and ask you to defend him, would you do it?
Absolutely.
And how would
Without
you
hesitation.
How would you build the defense for him? Say, now that you've said that it looks like he could easily be found guilty.
How I would build the defense would be based very much on what the evidence is in the investigation, and we don't have that yet. One of the first things I would do, if he called me today, I would, number one, start talking to the government about the possibility of getting him an immunity agreement. I think that he probably knows quite a bit from being over there for 5 years, and I think that it would not be inappropriate necessarily for him to say, well, I want immunity from prosecution in order to cooperate.
I mean, is he putting himself in danger by not having a lawyer involved already, are you saying?
Well, in my opinion, everybody, civilian or military, who is being investigated is doing themselves a disservice if they don't at least pick up the phone and talk to a lawyer. And most of the lawyers I know will talk to people for free.
Are there Miranda rights in the military?
There are. In fact, there are better rights like Miranda in the military than there are in the civilian world.
So he's been told his rights at this point before he was debriefed? I
would like to guarantee you that he has been, but I've seen too many investigations where they screw that up and don't do that right. So I certainly hope that they're advising him of all of his legal rights.
Brian Bouffard, former Navy Lieutenant Commander and JAG officer. He's a lawyer now. The website is jagdefender.com. Brian, we'll have to have you on some more as the case goes on. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael.